So I've always had this problem where I can't sit down and actually play games. And I noticed that when I was a kid, I didn't have this issue. And I spent like a long amount of my life trying to like figure out why that was. And I bet you do too. So I'm hoping that I can like put out a video that's kind of like a message to help people, because I feel like I might have solved an issue that I was facing for like years and years and years. So when I was younger, I felt like I had all the time in the world. I could basically do whatever I wanted. And as I grew older, there was this pressure, this anxiety, this will to succeed, this like constant pressure that I need to be doing something to get to where I need to be, and that doesn't go away. It never went away. But there was one thing that I found out. There's one thing that I found out is that the more that you sort of focus on that feeling, it starts to eat you alive. And I got pretty deep into the trenches of like being productive. I started a company. I made a lot of product. Oh, where'd my cat go? Oh, my cat's in the bank. So I guess we're gonna run back to the bank. Oh no, there's my cat. So I always felt this pressure to be doing something productive, and I was noticing where that was getting me in life, but I didn't feel fulfilled. I wasn't really doing things that was like living life the way that I wanted to. I was more like paying like the tax of life, where I was just like doing stuff for the sake of, making money or making connections or, getting into a friend circle or whatever. All these things just to feel secure, but like I wasn't actually feeling like I was living my life. There was just always this living feeling of like I can't sit down and do the things that I wanted to do, because I would always be anxious that I'd want to do this one thing, this one thing just to be super productive. So back when I was a kid, I used to be here in RuneScape fighting goblins and just, exploring free to play, having a good old time. And I always told myself, one day when I grow up, I'll have enough money to play this game because I could play with members. And, now that I can afford it, I feel like I don't want to play it because every time I sit down, I get anxious. And that was like that for a while. Like I didn't want to do anything that I used to do when I was, free. Log in on RuneScape every now and then, and I would just sort of sit here in the free-to-play areas and attack goblins, and then log out after like 20 minutes. So fast forward a little bit later, I still had this feeling where I wasn't really allowed to do the things that I wanted to do because I needed to be responsible. And, let me just be like honest, that word responsible is bullshit, because we're put on this world to just like enjoy our time, right? Like we're here to enjoy it and then we die. And here I was like focused on just, like making music, doing like video game asset production and all this other stuff just to like make money, and tutoring students music, but I wasn't really living. And that feeling got really bad. Like it got to the point where I would tell my friends that I don't play video games because they're just not for me, and I don't really like them. And that's partly true. Like certain video games I just genuinely can't sit down and play because I have arthritis in my hands. But, RuneScape has always been that game that I always wanted to revisit, and I promised myself as a kid I would come back and play this, but like, now that I had the funds to do so, the money to actually play the game, wasn't feeling like it. So time and time again I'd be revisiting, but this time was different. If you check my channel, you might notice that there's like a little Let's Play series. And if you look at the timestamp down here in the bottom right, you might have noticed some of my sessions get to like an hour long. No, why is that? It's not because I'm recording. I don't think it's being productive than making a video because I'm, making videos for like 500 viewers. So making a video for 500 viewers and not really feeling any sort of value out of that really wouldn't quantify me playing RuneScape for an hour, right? So what changed? Well, I'll tell you what changed. Absolutely nothing. In all honesty, like, the biggest barrier was fear itself. Sitting there and being anxious about needing to be productive all the time was the most unproductive thing I could have ever done. Because all I was like focusing on being productive, I wasn't actually living my life. And what's the point of being productive if you're not going to live your life? So I told myself, I'm going to set a timer, and I'm going to start low, and I'm going to treat this like it's production. So the first week, I told myself I'd just play this game for 30 minutes at a time, because I knew that I'd enjoy it. And I knew that there was like a lingering anxiety that was basically just telling me, hey, you need to be doing something else. And that wasn't me being in control, that was my anxiety. And believe me, that shit sucks. And it was kind of hard. Like, I would only play like a couple free-to-play quests, and I didn't even buy membership. Like, honestly, looking back, what I would have said to myself, like, I should have just bought membership to force myself to actually play the game. Though, like, deep down I knew that was probably too much pressure. There's an inner child in all of us. There's an inner child in all of us, and I think we all want to do stuff that we almost criticize ourselves for doing. You know, we look at other people and we look at their successes and we compare ourselves, and it's like, it's so much easier to do that with social media these days. And I feel like the biggest mistake is social media these days because, you know, you have one-click access to see what everyone else is succeeding in. But there's one thing that I noticed. There's one thing that I noticed about that, is that the more I started playing these silly little games again, the less I cared. Like, I just stopped going on social media as much. Like, in a way, it actually feels like I was teleported back to, like, 2012. Or, like, even later than that. Like 2006, which, you know, just so happened to be about around the same time I started playing RuneScape. Yeah, this video kind of goes out as a message for anyone who's struggling with the whole, you know, issue of not being able to sit down and play video games. And I'm probably just gonna add to this video like super old school, like I'm gonna make it look like it was added in on like Windows Movie Maker. And that's just because I want to. You know, I was taking a shower one day, and I said the most beautiful quote, just completely impromptu. And I said the most beautiful quote. That is a tongue twister. And I said the most beautiful quote, just like completely impromptu. You can just do stuff. And I don't know why, but in the moment when I said that, it actually felt like the biggest revelation, even though it's like really stupid. It's like, you can just do stuff. You know, back to the social media thing, it seems like the whole world's trying to convince you that you can't do the things that other people are doing, and that you have to do what other people are doing. But like, you don't have to do what other people are doing, and you can just do stuff. You know, I looked like a couple weeks back, and it's like, you know, this counter hitting 14 minutes was like a death sentence. It just took forever. Like, now look at me. You know, it's a lot easier to spend my time, because instead of spending it, I'm just enjoying it. Now, I'm not going to say their name for privacy reasons, but I know they're probably going to watch this video, and I just want to sort of speak my mind in the same way that I would have spoken to them, and they've probably heard me say this before in Discord calls, but I've had a friend that was just really, really focused on, you know, getting to where they want to be in life. And a lot of the times they would tell me that, you know, they would just try things differently each and every single time. You know, in this case, it was to find a girlfriend, right? And they would always, like, come up with all these different ways, like, you know, they would go to different barbers to get their hair cut a different way. Or they would, like, go to different places, like, places that they normally wouldn't even go to. Like they don't really like going to bars, but they would go to bars. And it was just to, like, change themselves to, like, get better outcomes that really just, it crushed him, and I knew that. And, you know, as soon as he stopped caring about that shit, his life got so much easier. You know, him just being himself, going into spaces that he actually wants to go into, and, like, actually spending time the way that he wants to spend it, you could tell that he was, you know, a lot happier. And I take a little bit of inspiration from that, because I feel like, you know, everyone's sort of playing catch-up with their own expectation, and you don't really have to. Like, you can just do stuff. And the beautiful thing about that is, as soon as he started doing stuff that he wants to do, like, it reflected on the people in a more positive way. You know, he felt happier, everyone around him could tell. It's almost like there's a science to it. There's just all these, like, forced expectations, but, you know, this is a side tangent. I feel like if you're gonna go about living your life doing things that are because of expectations, instead of, you know, just genuinely doing things that you want to do, are you really spending your time, like, wisely? Is it really being productive? And, you know, one might argue that you could just, like, say that no, it isn't productive because you should have a job and etc. blah blah blah. Well, of course you should have a job, but, like, whenever you have downtime and you can't switch that, like, mode out of your head of being, like, super productive, right? Like, are you being productive at that point? No, I don't think you are, because that's where I was, and I couldn't play RuneScape again. You know, there's that inner child that was basically like saying, hey, I'm gonna buy membership when I'm an adult, and I'm gonna play this game, and I'm gonna have fun. And it feels so good to be able to do that now. Yeah, I live and die by this advice, is that you can just do things. Like, if you want to do something, you shouldn't criticize the action, you should just do the thing. I know this seems silly, but, like, once you actually do it, and I genuinely promise you this, like, once you get past that 30-minute marker, you know, those painful 30 minutes where you feel like you should be doing something else, but you're sitting here playing this game anyways because you set a timer, that feeling that you had when you were a kid again playing this video game, it will come back. It may not be exactly the same, but it's still there. I can say that because I've experienced it. You know, this world is so focused on productivity, like, they literally sell you on your fault. All of your faults are basically things that advertisers can use against you so that you can make money to spend it on things, so that you can fix problems that they invented. It's why social media sucks, because you see everyone else succeeding, and then you just see ads that are showing you on your deficits, your faults, your problems. You know, the things that you shouldn't feel bad about, but the internet makes you feel bad about. They sell you on loneliness with community. They sell you on, like, your looks with makeup. They sell you on, like, your diet with food. I just think it's all bullshit. You know what it was like in 2001 for me? You know the sort of ads that I saw when I was a kid? I saw ads for RuneScape. I saw ads for RuneScape that took you to Congregate, which was a Flash game website way back in the day. And you could play free to play on there. And I genuinely felt like I was living my best life. You know, I have an old CRT, and I'll put a picture in here just to show you. I still have that CRT, like, back when I was a kid and I played this game. Like, it's honestly the reason why I'm editing in this 4:3 aspect ratio, is because I wanted to feel that feeling again, right? You know, unfortunately that CRT doesn't work, but, like, I dug that thing out of my garage. You know, I got that out of the garage just to see if it still worked, to like, hope to God that that would, like, be the reason why I can't play this game, because it was maybe the nostalgia or whatever, right? But it wasn't the nostalgia, it was the ability to sit down and actually be immersed in it and actually enjoy it. Because, like, amongst all those years, right, you know, something in my brain changed that made it harder for me to actually enjoy this kind of media. And I just genuinely think if you sit down and you actually take the time to treat this as if it is a productive task, you won't be disappointed. You know, the biggest quote that I can ever say is, at least as an artist, right? And I feel like this actually applies to, like, all of life, right? Is that play is part of the work, because without play, you wouldn't have a drive to do anything. You know, we work so we can play. And it seems like when you get older, it almost, like, switches around in your head. It's like, you know, we can't play, we have to work. And that is all bullshit. But yeah, I hope the YouTube algorithm sees this and picks it up, because, you know, I just wanted to record something to spread my message that you can do what you want to do. Like, you don't have to just sit there and be anxious, like you can't do the thing that you wanted to do as a kid, because you have, like, this stupid, like, super productive brain problem. And hey, love yourself. You only have one of yourself. And that inner child was still there. Just gotta play games again, dude. Yeah, love yourself. I mean, there's only one of you. You know, the least he can do is celebrate the fact that we figured out how to make sand think. You know, play video games. Thanks for watching, bye.